let's take 3 bows to the Buddha. Okay, I'll leave you this.
3 bows to Buddha. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. 3 bows to Shifu Zhihan. First bow. Second bow. Third bow.
Okay,
Please have a seat.
Be seated. So we'll start reciting together, with the palms together. Homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni 3 times, okay? Homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni. Okay, put your palms down. And we just recite together 3 times. And then just follow me. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Bodhiyana Center. This is actually the first lecture in the center. Okay, and we're very excited to be here. This will be one of the many lectures that will take place here in English and sometimes in Chinese. Right? So, this lecture will kickstart what I call the series on the 37 factors of enlightenment. It's the most important teaching in Buddhism. Okay, how so? When the Buddha Shakyamuni, 2,500 years ago, he attained enlightenment, he realized the 4 Noble Truths. And he taught the 4 Noble Truths to the first 5 bhikshus. And these, the teaching of the 37 factors of enlightenment is part of the 4 Noble Truths. The first Noble Truth is the truth of dukkha, suffering, dissatisfaction. The second is the truth of the origin of suffering. 3, the truth of the cessation of suffering. And the 4th is the path to the cessation of suffering, the 4th truth. 37 factors of enlightenment is precisely covering the content of number 4, the 4th truth. Okay. And I'm going to be drawing material. The material that I'm using is actually from the Pali Tipitaka in the Nikayas. Also the Chinese Agamas. There are no English translation. I will be translating them and then providing the information to you. And also I'm drawing the teachings from the Mahaprajnaparamita Shastra. In Chinese would be 大智度论, which has an entire chapter on 37 factors of enlightenment. Yeah. So I'm going to be using all these materials. Now, these are sutras that I just named. One particular work or manual that I'll be using is by a very important Burmese monk, Ledi Sayadaw. Okay, he is by far the most important teacher, contemporary teacher in Buddhism, in the Theravada tradition. He was around. He lived from 1846 to 1923. Now his students are very well known throughout the world. Venerable Mahasi, Venerable Pawa, Uba King, and then Uba King is teacher of Goenka. Okay, so he's a meditation teacher. Now why is he so important? Because he's not only a meditation teacher, but he's also a commentary teacher. So he not only taught meditation, but also the basis, the philosophy, all the basis for the practice. And he outlines in his manuals very clearly the path to liberation, and in as far as experiences. Okay. And so I'm going to be introducing this 37 factor of enlightenment not only as a theoretical teaching, it's theoretical and practice at the same time. So it's everything has to do with samatha and vipassana completely. And I'll be introducing these 37 as something that you can practice, something that you should aim for in your practice. Now, before I dive into the content, we need to first establish the importance of the 37 factors of enlightenment within the whole scope of Buddhism. Okay. When someone says, all religions are the same, all roads lead to Rome, this can be understood from the perspective of Buddhism as only one level, the level of human celestial level. Okay, which, prepare my laser right here. Human celestial level, right here. This is the level where it talks about the I. The I, the human existence, the celestial existence in samsara. And how do I live better? Accumulate more merits. This is the content of the 5 precepts. This is the content of how, the ethical conduct of a spiritual practitioner. This is the basis for everything. And this is what is common in all religions that teaches wholesomeness. But Buddhism goes beyond that. Buddhism even talks about the way of the Sravakas and the Bodhisattva, which means for liberation and enlightenment, or Bodhi. Okay, full enlightenment. Yeah. The 37 factors of enlightenment pertains to these two levels, which are not common to all other religions, which are the distinctive feature of Buddhism. Because these two levels of liberation and Bodhi, or Bodhisattva path, Sravaka and Bodhisattva path, is talking about the complete destruction of the I, the ego. The I, mine, me. At the human celestial level, no. It's still the I, mine, nice, at that level. Okay. This is shared by all religions, but Buddhism is different in the other two levels. So what I'm going to be covering, it's basically the distinct feature of Buddhism. Yeah. And the road to liberation, and how that road to liberation can be in sync with the road of helping others. Okay. And then here we need to ask ourselves certain questions. Rhetorical questions. At the human celestial level, right? Is it necessary? What are the requirements? When we practice at the human celestial level, we need to follow the precepts. We need to follow the precept from the perspective of body and speech. But at this level, it's not required yet the mental aspect. Okay. You can start training for that, but it's not a requirement. The 5 precepts only pertains to the content of body and speech. Okay. Now, when you go to the mind level, then we're talking about the Sravaka and the Bodhisattva path. Now, a lot of people talk about compassion. I'll give you an example of the difference. Many religions talk about empathy, love, universal love, compassion. But are they the same as in content, as Buddhism? No. One big difference. The compassion in Buddhism is not about reinforcing the I and the ego. It's about selflessness, letting go of the self. By benefiting others, putting others above oneself, and then eventually the destruction of the self, the I, the notion, the concept, the clinging, the fixation on the self. Okay. Now, someone can say, yeah, but then there are many religions that talk about the universal love. Okay, but there's one particular, what we call obstacle. Universal up to a point, but then because of the theistic belief of the one supreme, it's almost like a magnified version of the I into the big I. So it's still the I. So all in the name and glory of the supreme. That is still going into the so-called grand notion with the I. That's not liberation. That is still at the human celestial level. Okay. So from the perspective of Buddhism, from the practice of bodhisattva, a bodhisattva needs to have the basis of the Sravaka practice and then be able to reduce the I through the reduction of greed, hatred, and ignorance. And at the same time, help sentient beings. Yeah. So you are in every way trying to reduce the importance of the self. You're trying to understand and get to the destruction of the notion and concept of self. Okay. And this is one, the biggest difference, and it is most defining difference of Buddhism and all religions. So the 37 factors of enlightenment, it's covering the Sravaka and the Bodhisattva level. Okay. Literally, without the Sravaka understanding and practice, if you say you're practicing the Bodhisattva path, it's kind of in name only. You're not really, like, you don't have the essence of the Bodhisattva yet. For someone to be in the practicing the Sravaka path, this level, that someone would have already done the homework of human celestial level of not harming, perhaps not intentionally always wanting to benefit others, but at least not harming is very important. No violence. Yeah, in the context of the Dharma, and then the human celestial realm, together with the Sravaka practice, that's will lead to the possibility of the Bodhisattva practice. Okay, so imagine the 37 factors of enlightenment are very, very important. I cannot emphasize enough. And this will be a lecture that you need to listen over and over again, trying to see if you miss anything, and then you put it into practice in your meditation and also in everyday life. Okay. So, let's go to next. Human beings, the notion of self, how do we perceive, how do we know, how do we detect that wrong views, that pertains to the notion of clinging of a self through 4 aspects that is very, very clear in our everyday life. We call them wrong views. Number 1 is the view of permanence, or view of eternalism. This idea of how you don't want to have things that change, for especially youth. You're born, you're happy, and you grow up, and one day you are out in the world, and you go, oh no. You want to stay back. You refuse change. You see a lot of things changing, you see your body changing, you see everything, your emotions, your thoughts, but you ignore all these signs. Your mind work on a what we call permanence mode. Today will be the same as tomorrow, same as the day after tomorrow, and death, which is imminent in our life. We know that's going to happen for sure. We refuse to accept death. We refuse to accept aging. We refuse to accept sickness. That's the wrong notion, the wrong view of permanence. The right view would be understanding impermanence as part of life. Okay. Another wrong view would be bliss. This constant search for bliss, but in today's world, we should call that instant gratification. Always looking for instant gratification. Something that tastes good to the taste buds, to the eyes, to your senses. Trying to feed this self, this notion of I, through this instant gratification. Not knowing that the existence in samsara, the first noble truth tells it all. The world, the existence, the mere existence is suffering. It's not satisfactory. One day in a human's life, it's filled with all kind of suffering that we come to get used to. Okay, so we get tired, so we have to sleep. And when we sleep, we feel blissful. When we wake up, we feel good. But we already, many times we forget that we got tired. That's why we needed the sleep. And then you function throughout the day. You eat. You're happy about your food. You enjoy your food. But you realize that after you eat your food, this food needs to be processed. And then it needs to come out. If you only eat and then nothing comes out, how many days can you go on? How many days can you last? That notion, that erroneous notion of searching for bliss, is pure ignorance, created by the conceit of the I, thinking that through these instant gratification, it's reinforcing its existence. It's living. It's feeling life. Okay, so the wrong view is bliss. The right view is suffering. Suffering is not a swear word. Suffering is the nature of samsara. When I say this is black, because it's black. When I say this is white, this is white. There's nothing wrong with white or black. Or you might want to call it brown. But suffering is a characteristic of our existence. Understanding it and then not allowing the mind to go into this wrong idea of this possible blissful existence, then you start removing ignorance from your everyday life. Self. This I, right? Self is the key to all the wrong views, right? But self is actually not as easy to detect as impermanence or suffering. So that's why they need to be there too. Okay? But self, this notion of self, this notion of me and my territory, right? And this, that I am something autonomous, independent, right? Everlasting. These kind of notions, these kind of ignorance is what make us suffer. So Buddhism, the right view of Buddhism is non-self. Last, this notion of purity, and this is talking about attractiveness of the body, right? How one look at the mirror and go, wow, I thank my parents. They've done well, right? Or the opposite would be, why didn't my dad or my mom, give me other features, right? But there comes a time when we just become attached to our own appearance, and we just think that, wow, this is cool. This is, if I can just hold on to this for as long as I can, and I'm going to be a happy person. No. After 30 years old, everything is downhill from there. Yeah. Some people last longer, but then it never lasts. Okay. And then you will smile because you understand. And if you're not smiling, it's because you haven't felt it yet. Yeah. And then one day when you're on a bus or somewhere, and then someone just gets up and, please have a seat. And you go, oh, okay. Yes, it will dawn on you, Yeah. Okay. So this body, this attractiveness that we think it's, like it's real, no, it's fleeting. It's not even, it's always changing. We are aging, and it's going through this process of decay constantly. And then that's why you need to understand this body is just impure. Because that's the nature of this existence in samsara. It's not bad, it's not good, it's the way it is. And that's why in the practice of the 37 factors of enlightenment, what are we to do? We need to connect in every way to these right views. applying the practice, the factors of enlightenment. Yeah. Okay. So, what we are trying to do, getting to the right views, is to eliminate once and for all, or gradually and then eventually eliminate for all, the Sakkaya Ditthi. Sakkaya Ditthi. Ditthi in Pali means view. Sakkaya is the eye, the subtle eye, the grand eye. This Sakkaya Ditthi had 3 levels, 3 layers. Layer number 1, bodily action and speech. That's why in the 5 precepts of a lay person, lay practitioner, we start with controlling, managing, okay, and living ethically, body and speech. Second layer, which is deeper, is the mind. Mental actions. All the thoughts that goes on, we start trying to tame the thoughts, okay, through the practice of the 37 factors of enlightenment. Okay, so body, speech, and mind, these 2 layers. And there's one more layer. That layer is a layer what we call latent tendencies. In Chinese would be 随眠. Yeah, that which is subconscious. From past lives, this notion of self, all the habits, especially the unwholesome actions and habits that is in the subconscious, that it's affecting in our every decision, in every action. Yeah. So the 37 factors of enlightenment is to help us to go layer by layer and eventually destroying all notions of self. Yeah. And reaching liberation, nirvana. Yeah. So it's very important. Okay, so now we can go into the 37 factors of enlightenment. There are 7 groups in the 37. So there's a number, certain digit I want you to memorize. It's called 3, 4, 2, 5, 7, 8. Okay, repeat after me. 3, 4, 2, 5, 7, 8. Okay, it means 3 groups of the 4, 2 groups of the 5, and a group of 7, and a group of 8. Total 37. Yeah, 3, 4, 2, 5, 7, 8. 3, 4, 2, 5, 7, 8. Yeah, like that. And then you just bang, bang, bang. 3, 4, 2, 5, 7, 8. That's a phone number that you dial to get to nirvana. Okay? The dial of 37 factors of enlightenment. Yeah, isn't that a good one?
That's a good one.
Yes. So we have. Let's read it together because you need to memorize this. Okay. 4 foundations of mindfulness. 4 right efforts. 4 bases of attaining completion. 5 faculties. 5 powers. 7 factors of enlightenment. Eightfold noble path. There. These are the 7 groups. Now the Buddha never gave one lecture about all 37. No. He gave so many lectures about 1 or 2 or 3 of the groups. Many, many. He gave lectures giving metaphors on each one or some of the factors. And that's why part of the Buddhist practice is to get familiar with all these texts, sutras that the Buddha has given, sermons, and then capture the information and try to translate it into your practice, in your meditation and your daily life. So in the Mahaprajnaparamita Shastra, in the fascicle 19, there is what we call definition on each group. Okay, there are 7 definitions, and I'll just read Chinese and I'll give you the translation that I have. Okay. 是诸法念随顺智慧，圆中止住，事实明念处。Okay, so English would be mindfulness is when the mind is in accordance with wisdom, connected with the middle way, and is in concentration, in focus. Second one, 正勤，破邪法，正道中行，故名正勤。Translation: right efforts enables one to abandon the unwholesome thoughts and maintain in the right path. 摄心安稳于圆中，故名如意足。Basis of attaining completion are the absorptions of the mind, or are when the mind is in state of absorption. Okay. 软质心得，故名根。Faculties are making the mind, what makes the mind malleable, making it conducive to the attainment of wisdom. 利是利益的利，可是是利润的利，利智心得，故名利。OK， 第一个利跟最后一个利是不一样的利。Powers are the sharpening of the mind in accordance with wisdom. 修道用，故名觉。Factors of enlightenment are employed in cultivating the path. 见道用，故名道。Noble path are employed to see the path. Okay, so one is a tool and one is a seeing. Okay. Anyway, so I just want to give you that as a definition because in order to explain the 37, it's just by diving into each of the groups. And it will take many lectures to finish the 37 because just the contemplation of the body will take 2 or 3 lectures. Okay? Because I'll be citing on the different sutras. Yeah. Okay. So, analysis of the 37 factors of enlightenment. Okay. There are 10 fundamental components in the 37 factors. Okay. 10 fundamental factors that repeat themselves. And I'll give you, because this is also a translation from the 大智度论. Okay, so it's 大智度论 says in 那个19卷, it says 是37品，十法为根本，何等十？性、戒、思维、精进、念、定、慧、除。除的意思是清安 ，OK， 喜、舍。And I'll give you the English. The 10 fundamental components of the 37 factors, they repeat, some of them actually repeat themselves in the different groups, okay? But then, essentially, if you take all 37, the 7 groups, and then you compare them, there are only 10 things that are fundamental. It's conviction, discipline, intention, or sometimes translated as thought, energy, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom, tranquility, joy, and the last one is called equipoise. Equipoise means a state of equilibrium. Many times translated as equanimity, But because English has a word that is even closer to that meaning, equipoise. That's what we use it. Spanish doesn't even have this word, or Portuguese. Yeah. Now I need to list these for you to know that even though we are talking about 37 factors, but they actually repeat themselves in different groups. Why? Now, to understand why, it took me 24 years. Because there are sutras that talk about each one of the groups, but they don't talk about the relationships. So to draw this graph, I have the Chinese also, that which I'm going to introduce tomorrow. Yeah, and then I'll explain this to you, because this is going to form the basis of your practice of the 37. Okay, I'm going to save you a lot of time. Okay, and I'm not using commentaries to explain this. I'm just going into primarily the sutras. How the sutras talk about the relationships of the 37. Okay, and also based on the meditators, their experiences, the significance of each group. How does that help us in what we call eliminating the self? Okay. So the structure of the 37 factors. Okay, so we have the 3, 4, 2, 5, 7, 8, right? So if you, I have asked myself over and over again, if I want to visualize the 37 factors, what is the structure? Where is the structure of the 37 factors, right? You know what? There's one sutra that talk about that. It's actually the structure of the 37. It's precisely on the last one, which is Eightfold Noble Path. Eightfold Noble Path is the vertebrae, the vertebrae of the 37, right? So you will see the way I drew this graph, right? Eightfold Noble Path, like the vertebrae. And then what the other groups of factors that influence and then affect within the Eightfold Noble Path. And there's one sutra that talk about this. And we're going to dive right into this sutra. And I need to pull up this. This sutra, the Great 40, Majjhima Nikaya 117, has Chinese equivalent in Zhong'ahan. Okay, and this sutra talk about how to the Buddha talk about the Eightfold Noble Path, the relationship between the 7 and the 8th, and then how they affect each other. It's not a you practice one after the other. It's not a what we call linear relationship. It's more like a dynamic relationship of the factors. Okay, how so? Let's read this thing. So, thus have I heard. I think you might. Well, don't worry. I'll read it very clearly. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living as Savatthi in Jeta's grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus. Bhikkhus, venerable sir, they replied. The Blessed One said this. Bhikkhus, I shall teach you noble right concentration with its support and its requisites. Okay. Listen and attend closely to what I shall say. Yes, venerable sir, the bhikkhus replied. Okay. So, Eightfold Noble Path. What is the objective? It's right concentration. 正定. In the 8, how do you get to right concentration? And the Buddha said, there are supports and requisites. Okay. And then, so he goes on. What the Blessed One said this: what, bhikkhus, is noble right concentration with its supports and its requisites? That is, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, and right mindfulness. Unification of mind equipped with these 7 factors is called noble right concentration, with its supports and its requisites. Okay, remember, one thing to clarify: concentration in the context of the Eightfold Noble Path is not just samatha, like focusing your mind only. It includes vipassana. It includes insight. It's not just about focusing your mind. It's about focusing your mind and doing an introspection that gets where? That can actually help us eliminate what? The I, the self. Yes. Right? That's right concentration. So the other 7 are what it's required in order to achieve right concentration. Okay. So here it goes. So, and then in Buddhism, a lot of people say, you know what? You have to have the right understanding of the Dharma. 要有正知见. In Chinese Buddhism, we always say that. You have to have the right view, right or right understanding. But the question is, what are the content of right understanding? And then some people say, right understanding is when you listen to Shifu, that's right understanding. No. Sometimes Shifu can be wrong. Right understanding is about what the Buddha taught regarding the right understanding. Right? So the question is, what are the right understanding? And the Buddha explained. He said, therein, bhikkhus, right view comes first, in the Eightfold Noble Path. How does right view comes first? One understands wrong view as wrong view and right view as right view. This is one's right view. Well, it's almost like he said nothing. But no, he did say something. And I want to bring you that, remind you why this sentence is important. It is not enough to know what is right view. You need to be able to identify wrong view as they happen, as you hear them, as you witness a wrong view. You need to understand, you need to be able to see it. Because if you don't develop that sense towards wrong views, you will just listen, and if your environment is full of wrong views, you listen, oh yeah, okay, yeah, take it easy, it's all good, it's all great, it doesn't affect me. But slowly but surely, you become affected by wrong views. Being able to identify wrong views as wrong views is part of right view. I'll give you an example. If in meditation, and you're focusing your breathing, right? And you reach that point where your mind and your breathing is one. Okay? And you don't register that sensation. You just let it pass. You just go, oh, it feels good. And then you don't identify this, right? Then how do you get back to that state? It's like, leaving breadcrumbs on your path. There are certain ways you adjust your body, you adjust your mind, you adjust your intention, you adjust your circumstance. You work on yourself in order to get to that state. So being able to identify the right state from the wrong state is very important. Being able to, in meditation, even noticing that energy going down, how the mind loses strength, how the mind is too agitated, knowing and noticing these differences is important. Because these are skills that we need to acquire in order to reach that mind of equilibrium, of balance, a balanced mind, unified mind. Same thing. in order to maintain right view, we need to be able to identify wrong views. Okay, so continue. What bhikkhus is wrong view? Wrong view is when one thinks or one says there's nothing given, nothing offered, nothing sacrificed. Okay. No fruit or result of good and bad actions. No this world, no other world. No mother, no father, no beings who are born spontaneously. No good and virtuous recluses and Brahmins in the world who have realized for themselves by direct knowledge and declare this world and the other world. This is wrong view. Okay, so what is this talking about? Let me translate it to today's language. First one, there's nothing given, nothing offered, nothing sacrificed. Means it's talking about there's no good or bad. There's no such thing as wholesome or unwholesome. Okay? So, like, it's a denial of that. How people, some people, yeah, it's all relative. It's all subjective. You know, what works for you might not work for the other person. So that in the world, there's no good or bad. Is there? If there is no good or bad, there's no wholesome versus unwholesome, there is no path. Because you will not have a path to get out of suffering and into nirvana. So there must be some gauge, some kind of criteria determining what is good or bad in terms of cause and effect. Okay? No fruit or result of good and bad actions. Number 2. Let's talk about no karma or consequence. I don't know if there's consequence. I see bad guys living a good life. I see good guys living a bad life. I see all these things. You know, I don't know. Okay, now what if someone believes in good and bad, believes in karma and consequence, but does not believe in this world nor other world? Basically, they don't believe in past lives, present, and future. Even today, there are Buddhist teaching like this. Like, there's good and bad, there's karma and consequence, but, you know, I don't know if there is past life, if there is future life. Or there's, you know, this life could be the last one. Some people might think like that. Then that's wrong view. So you have to be very careful when you are reading something, you know, things that people are saying. It sounds very feel-good philosophy. But is it right view? It needs to satisfy 4 criteria. So it's good, wholesome, or unwholesome. Karma and consequence. 3 periods of time. Past, present, and future. Affirm, have conviction that this thing exists. And one last one. It says, no good and virtuous recluse and Brahmins in this world. It's talking about that you do not think this world, as a human being, you can become liberated. Or there are such things as liberated ones. Because that is almost like in the theistic religion, is saying we are born sinners and we will always be sinners. That would be a wrong view in the eye of the right understanding of the Buddha. Right? Affirming that there are liberated ones, there have been liberated ones, means what? We can be future liberated ones. If we do not believe in the possibility of liberation, then we are not on the path at all. We're just playing with words. We're just learning. We're just calling ourselves Buddhist, but we are not really practicing because we think that I can't get there. Okay, so That's wrong. Those are the 4 wrong views, right? So now the right views is basically the opposite of that. But I want to go into something even more important. Okay, here. This is very important here. Okay, so now there's this paragraph that talks about the relationship of the Eightfold Noble Path. Okay, and it says here, one makes an effort. It's right here. One makes an effort to abandon wrong view and to enter upon right view. Okay, listen. Having the right view is not the practice yet. It's the beginning. But what does it need? On one hand, you need to make an effort. I want right view. I want to abandon wrong view. That is called right effort. It's a desire, the motivation. And if we think about our daily life, how often do we say, yeah, I know it's very nice, but I still need that instant gratification. It still feels good, right? It's okay, but you know. But is that right effort? No. And if we go into the content of right effort, you will notice, wow, that's right effort? Right? But here it's saying that how right effort needs to help what? Right view. So there's right view, right effort, and what else? That's not enough yet. Mindfully, one abandons wrong view. Mindfully, one enters upon and abides in right view. This is one's right mindfulness. So imagine this vertebrae of, the structure of the 37 enlightenment, and it's actually the Eightfold Noble Path, right? So you read it here on the top, you have right view. It's like the eye, right view. But right view needs to be balanced, checked by what? Right effort, and then on the other hand, right mindfulness. And then these three, here it says, thus, these 3 states run and circle around right view, that is, right view, right effort, and right mindfulness. Okay. So, right view, right energy, and right mindfulness. These 3 are the triads that needs to affect what? Needs to affect right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood. This is actually a graph, right? They are making, right now in Argentina, they're making an animation for me of how the 3, and then they just kind of scan through the vertebrae of the 37 factors of enlightenment. Because it actually needs a 3D graph to show that relationship. The 3 affecting every one of them. Okay. And then, I won't, this sutra you will have to read on your own, because it repeats the same formula for right intention, right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Okay. But it gives a structure already to the 37 factors of enlightenment. Okay, so let me continue. Okay. So this is the same graph as this. The 37 factors of enlightenment starts with which one? In the list, it actually starts with the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Okay. Now, in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, what is the key? Where is the experiment? Where do you do all the work on to become enlightened, to awaken? Where? Body. The 37 factors of enlightenment, the first one is called mindfulness of the body. That's right. That's why in the road to nirvana, mindfulness of body is right in the middle. Okay. The Buddha said, the world is suffering. He's talking about two kinds of worlds. One, it's the outside, but number one, most important, is this world. This world of five aggregates, of the form, feelings, perception, volition, consciousness. This world. This world of the elements. This world of the psychological aspects. So in the 37 factors of enlightenment, the place where you do the work is where? This. Okay. It's not outside. It's inside. And you need to go as deep as you can and cut it as fine as you can to understand the nature of this existence. And that's what the 37 factors keep pointing to. Understanding that this existence is impermanent, suffering, non-self, and impure. Yeah. So all the sutras, when it relates to the body, to the psychological aspects of the mind, is talking about impermanence, suffering, non-self, and impurity. Impurity pertains a lot more to the physical aspect. Yeah. But definitely the other three. All the time we are reminded in the formula. And that's how we practice in meditation also. Yeah. To see impermanence within the body. To see suffering within the body. Or of the body. To see the non-self aspect of this body. Okay. Just to give you an example. In one of the sutras, in the sutra of the on the four regarding the four elements, the Buddha said, this body has earth element, water element, fire element, and air element. When you observe the the earth element within you, you come to realize and sense the solidity of earth element within your body. Bhikkhus, you should know that the earth element within, internally, is the same as the earth element externally. So the question is, where is the I? Everything that is solid within your body, it's the same internally as outside. So where's the self? Yeah. So these are what we call introspections, that we do throughout meditation. So mindfulness of body, it's right at the center. This is where you need to focus and then practice and do achieve a very solid foundation. Okay, this will be like the beginning and the end of all. It's through your body. And when you understand your body well enough, then you take on the other mindfulness of what? Mindfulness on feelings, mindfulness on the mind, the state of the mind, and the qualities of the mind. Okay, that'll be the full four of the foundations of mindfulness. Okay, so I want to now also touch up a little bit on the other aspects. I don't know if this is clear or this is clear, but whatever. It's okay. The right effort in the 37 factors is not about, practice, practice, and push. It's not about that. It's actually tweaking the mind to the right frequency. Okay, because the content of the four foundations of the right efforts are the effort to abandon unwholesome thought that has arisen. Okay, if an unwholesome thought arises, an unwholesome thought is definitely from wrong view. One decides, no, stop. You don't give that energy. Second, effort to impede unwholesome thoughts that has not arisen. So, an unwholesome thought that has not arisen, you don't give it conditions or energy to arise. So that's still right effort. The third right effort is effort to sustain wholesome thoughts that has arisen. So a wholesome thought in meditation, in the practice, is, let's say, the joy of meditation. Okay? When the mind is focused and you are achieving that unified mind, then that is right. Then you sustain that thought. You sustain. You give it energy, but not too much. Just enough. Okay? And then last one. Give rise to wholesome thoughts that has not arisen. Wholesome thought that has not arisen, you have to give it, induce it, give it possibility to arise. So that's right energy. So what does this have to do with the working of the mind? It's about tuning the mind to what? Sees evil, arouse good. And it's always throughout your speaking, doing, thinking, you're always mindful of applying the right energy to your body, speech, and mind. What is a right bodily action to a floor practitioner? We walk into a room and then we close the door, right? We open the door and then we have to close the door. What is the right effort? It's to close the door so that it does not make a lot of noise that would actually affect someone else. Okay. And then when you do that mindfully, and then you are conscious of that right effort, then that also is with right view. So you're actually applying that in everyday life, in all your actions. Yeah. Not causing disturbance to others, bringing benefit to others, and that will be wholesome rather than unwholesome. Okay, so right energy and right mindfulness. In the 37 factors of enlightenment, the trickiest one to understand is actually the 4 bases to accomplishment. This one. It's very often it's very much misunderstood. Okay, but I'll just go exactly straight to what it really, the content is about. In this lifetime, if we practice by right view, right energy, and right mindfulness in all our body, speech, and mind, right? Would that guarantee that in our next lifetime, in our practice, we can continue and then pick up the practice? Not necessarily. If we want a deeper level, and then we have to reconnect. That's why all the meditators would argue, would offer the insight that we need to at least complete one of the bases. Okay, at least one of the 4 here. This is actually will or motivation. Motivation, energy, single mind, and knowledge. Okay, you will notice that energy and single mind is already repeated in the other two. The other two that are very interesting, which I won't go into detail, but I will just give you an idea what it is. Motivation, in the sutras, it says, what is the motivation? And then the Pali word is chanda, yu in Chinese. What is that yu? It's san fa yu. It is the motivation towards nirvana. So, in the sutras, it described the Buddha Shakyamuni when he said, when he came out of asceticism, he accepted the food, and then he picked a tree to sit down and start working, and he said to himself, I'm going to sit down and I would rather die than get up from my seat. I'm going to sit until my enlightenment. That was his motivation. And that would be chanda to, as a basis to accomplishing nirvana to the highest point. Okay. For us, what is chanda? What is motivation? It's every day when you wake up and go, okay, I have to do my 15 minutes of meditation. Okay, I'm going to do it because I need to develop a routine in my practice. Or I need to listen to Buddhang Saranang. I need to recite the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, taking refuge. I need to do my routine. And that will be from our one little way, a small way that we can start by developing the basis to accomplishing nirvana. The other thing is knowledge. This knowledge is not any knowledge. It is the knowledge of I shall not pursue instant gratification because I know if I get into these things, if I do any things that harms beings, I might end up in the ghost realms, animal realms, or the infernal realms. I do not wish to regress into the lower realms. That kind of knowledge. The unwavering knowledge of not wanting to fall into the lower realms. That is the knowledge that this is talking about. Okay. In Chinese, it's guan. Yeah. So in the LV, yu, ding, xin, guan. The last one is that. And then the two that I find very interesting that actually helps complete the graph, it's actually that the motivation and knowledge, it's what's really needed for a practitioner to lifetime after lifetime continue the practice. No one can take you away from the path. No one can convince you otherwise. Yeah. So Lady Sayadaw, in his manual, he said, if you can actually develop enough motivation for the path, then lifetime after lifetime, that will support right energy, right mindfulness, and right view and everything. Yeah. Okay, so in the graph, my new graph, I actually have a line of this two, this four bases supporting the right energy and right mindfulness. Now, and then we go on from this, then we go on to the five, right? The two fives. 5 faculties and 5 powers. And the content is conviction, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Okay. Basically, every other one is already repeated up there. So what is the biggest difference here? Conviction. Conviction is the key difference in the 5 faculty, 5 powers, and the others. But conviction in what? 那这个是信这个部分，信in Pali Saddha. What are the exact content of this saddha, this conviction? 4 things. complete, unwavering conviction on Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and last one, precept. Precept. In the practice of Pure Land, in the recitation of the name of the Buddha, in the practice of the recitation of mantra, conviction is very important. Because Buddha even has one sutra that says, there are some people who in their past lives have not practiced enough what we call concentration and unified mind, but they are very simple. Their mind is very pure. So they practice solely on the conviction on Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and precept. Okay. They believe that one can be enlightened, that the Buddha was enlightened. They believe without any doubt that the teaching of the Buddha is the way towards enlightenment. They believe that there are disciples who are able to achieve enlightenment just as the Buddha, and they believe in cause and effect. That's what the precepts are for. Because the precepts are to restrain us, this existence, from harming any beings. Right? So if one has total conviction in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and precepts, that's another way of reaching the liberation. Yeah. Now, that's why conviction is so important in the context of the 37 factors of enlightenment. Yeah. So, one thing that you should know that in Buddhism, all the theories are meant to be practiced. It's not a mental exercise. It's all about how do I put it into practice. Okay. So, then that's why when we talk about conviction, there are some people who can't even read, but they believe in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, that the purity of this, and at the same time that by following the precepts, by not harming other beings, they can be on the path of purification. So in one of the Buddhist practice, this is possible, right? Oh, no, within the context of the 37. Okay, so there's the 8. There's a 4, 4, 4, and a 5, 5. When you practice these factors, what is it that arises? What is the objective of practicing these factors? It's to achieve right concentration. Okay. The right concentration, when one is accessing right concentration, what happens to your body and mind? You begin to experience the 7 factors of enlightenment. 7 factors of enlightenment is something that arises in all aspects of the practice. It is like the result. These 7 factors of enlightenment are investigation of phenomena, energy, joy on one side. In the middle, it's mindfulness. On the other side, it's tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. Okay. Now, there's a reason why I put it this way. Okay. Because there's also a sutra that talks about the 7 factors of enlightenment. The Buddha said, when one is feeling low energy, low energy of concentration, what does one have to practice? One needs to be mindful and practice investigation of phenomena. Utilizing the tools taught by him to get out of what we called stupor, sleepiness. But when one is agitated, one is practicing and one is agitated and the energy is over, what should one practice? The other side. Tranquility, concentration, and equipoise. Yeah. Okay. So, but I don't want to give you too much information because I need to now get into one by one of the factors. But I think, well, okay. For foundational mindfulness, let's go straight to the first group of the 37 factors. Mindfulness of the body, feelings, mind, and mental qualities. Okay. In all the sutras, there's one sutra that explains the mindfulness of the body. There's a sutra that explains all four. But there's no sutra that explains individually feelings, mind, or mental qualities. And there's a reason why. Because the emphasis of the foundational mindfulness is actually rooted on what I already explained before, body. It's all rooted on the body. You need to be able to train your mind to be here and now. When we talk about here and now, we're talking about the direct experience of this dependent origination. This body as it's happening. This breathing as it's happening. Not projecting into the past. No, not flying back to the past. Not projecting in the future. Right here. To be here now. Yeah. Okay. So. And some of you have already seen this graph, but it's not here. It's the wheel of Satipatthana, a meditation, right? Where I'll give you it's talking about 7 aspects, tools that we use in the mindfulness on the foundational mindfulness, Satipatthana. Okay, and then this I will eventually one by one explain. But here, you need to look at this. Mindfulness of the body. To contemplate anatomical parts, skin, muscle, bone, and everything else related to the body. To contemplate the 4 elements of the body. To contemplate the mortality of this body, of this existence. Okay? This will correspond to the mindfulness of the body. Yeah. And now I want to go into, and by the way, all this information will be made available to you in PDF, okay, file that you can actually print out on your own. Okay, so don't worry if you cannot write down everything. Yeah, right. Okay, don't worry, Lisa. Don't worry. I will make it easy for you. I just want you to focus on, you know, the material that I'm introducing. Okay, so let's go to foundational mindfulness. Okay, this is Majjhima Nikaya number 10. Okay, on the discourse on mindfulness meditation. Okay, this is what I heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying in the land of the Kurus, where they have a city called Kamasadama. There, the Buddha addressed the monastics. Monastics, Venerable Sir, did he reply. And the Buddha said this. Monastics, this is the path where all things come together as one, to purify sentient beings, to make an end of pain and sadness, to get past sorrow and lamentation, to reach the way, to witness Nibbana, that is, the 4 kinds of mindfulness meditation. What for? Here, a monastic meditates by observing an aspect of the body, keen, aware, and mindful, rid of desire and aversion for the world. They meditate by observing an aspect of feelings, keen, aware, and mindful, rid of desire and aversion for the world. They meditate by observing an aspect of the mind, keen, aware, and mindful, rid of desire and aversion for the world. They meditate by observing an aspect of principles or qualities of the mind. Okay? Keen, aware, and mindful. Rid of desire and aversion for the world. Okay? And that will be the introduction. Right? And then, so the Buddha says, observing the body. Okay? Where does the Buddha start from? Starts from mindfulness of breathing. Start from there. And how does a monastic meditate by observing an aspect of the body? Here, a monastic has gone to the wilderness, or to the root of a tree, or to an empty building, somewhere quiet. They sit down in the meditation posture, with their body erect, and focus their mindfulness right there. Mindful, they breathe in. Mindful, they breathe out. Breathing in deep, they clearly know, I'm breathing in deep. Breathing out deep, they clearly know, I'm breathing out deep. Breathing in shallow, they know, I'm breathing in shallow. Breathing out shallow, they clearly know, I'm breathing out shallow. Okay, they practice like this. I'll breathe in, experiencing the whole breath. I'll breathe out, experiencing the whole breath. Now, so some of you already learned Anapanasati with me, right? So you know. First is to understand that you're breathing in, breathing out, and you know it clearly. But when it says the whole breath, what does it mean? In and out, entire process. Even the point of where the in becomes the out, and the out becomes the in. Everything. You're clear. Your mind is right here. It's not elsewhere. Okay. Now, even in Satipatthana, in the practice mindfulness on the body, you have to start with what? Breathing. That is what you find, it's called fine-tuning. When you do this at the beginning, you will notice how your mind is distracted or it's easily focused, right? But that's not where it ends. You know it, and then you move on. And so even in the mindfulness on the body, we always start with breathing, focusing on breathing, and after the breathing, we move into the body. So. It talks about postures, mindfulness on the body, mindfulness. It deals with posture. Furthermore, when one is walking, they clearly know, I am walking. When standing, they clearly know, I'm standing. When sitting, they clearly know, I'm sitting. And when lying down, they clearly know, I'm lying down. Whatever posture the body is in, they clearly know it. Okay, so what does that mean in terms of our practice? It means that you have a contour, you have awareness of the entire body, the contour, how you're sitting, whatever posture you're in, your mind is where? Aware of this. Aware of this existence, this world. This here and now. Because our body and our mind in our body is as here and now as ever. That's the only thing. Everything else is elsewhere. Outside. Not here. It's everywhere and nowhere. It's all a disaster. And after a whole day, you feel tired. Anyways, so we started from 2:40, right? So I think without knowing, I already spoke for an hour and a half.
About?
Yes. Okay. So I already started. I gave you a summary on the 37 factors of enlightenment. In retreats, I even teach people to visualize the factors of enlightenment, like list them in your head. Okay, what is right view, What is right energy? What is right mindfulness, right? And how I should apply all these three to my right intention, right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And how all these I need to have the right, the four bases of the motivation, energy, single mind, and knowledge. And how I should have conviction in the Buddha Dharma and precept, and then practice the five faculties so that they become five powers. And all this I'll be sitting on right concentration, and then which will make emerge what? Or arouse in me the 7 factors of enlightenment. And all this, when it's all completed, where do I end up? I end up on the other side, on the other shore of right liberation and right knowledge. Yeah. So this literally, I think of this as my body. And this is mindfulness of body right in the center. Yeah. Anyway, that's visualization that I make people do. So that you actually review the 37 factors of enlightenment day to day. Yeah. Very important. Yeah. Okay. So I guess we still have another lecture of English, right?
Yeah, on the 17th.
17. So I'm going to dive right into the mindfulness of the body and speak about, reading from the sutras and explaining how that's practiced. Yeah, mindfulness of the body, and then mindfulness of the body will cover the anatomical parts, the elements, and also the mortality, right? And then if we do finish, but I'm sure that next lecture is just enough to cover the first factor of enlightenment, and then the lecture after that I'll continue with the mindfulness of the feelings and so forth until I finish all 37. All right. Okay. So
we have half an hour.
Yes, for questions. Any questions? Yeah, because I noticed all of you were awake, very attentive, and now it's time to see what you actually learned. Yeah. By the way, for those of you who are actually very familiar with the Chinese material, when I speak in English, can you relate to it right away? The factors? Okay, good. Yeah. Any questions? Yes.
The right efforts, right energy.
Yeah.
Abandon unwholesome thought that has arisen.
Yeah.
And then the second one that says, and impede unwholesome thought that has not arisen.
Yeah.
How do you know what thought has not arisen? Like, how do you go from?
Good question. Thoughts, right, have a before, in the middle, and after. It's almost like a shadow. In meditation, if your mind is well focused, an unwholesome thought that is trying to arise, you can actually prevent it from arising. You see almost like a shadow of it. Because it creates, when there's an unwholesome thought about to arise, something changes. There is a signal. It's like a yellow light when you are practicing. But that means that your mind is very calm and like really focused. You can see these things. You can even see the tail of a thought after it's gone. And the effect on you. Because our thoughts is an energy. And then when we talk in a very general terms, how energy is has vibration. Imagine, let's take the cloud, okay, and in dark cloud, how do they happen? They start stirring something, and suddenly they blow, and then They gather out, right? But is there a prior process to this gathering up? There is. There is. For example, how do you know? And then I'm purely speaking from meditative experience now. Okay, when you're practicing and you start losing energy, like you cannot pick up the mental energy in the practice, then that's already you're giving condition to what? Possibly what? Unwholesome thoughts can arise because you are losing energy, and that's when you need to know I'm gonna have to give it more. You know, whatever you're focusing on, whether you're breathing or your body, right? You need to tweak your mind, and that way you can actually prevent unwholesome thoughts from arising. And by unwholesome thoughts, these are thoughts on greed, craving, hatred, or discomfort. You know, even a thought of that's an unwholesome thought, like that. You know how it is? It's not a word. It's not something. It's like that is an unwholesome thought in meditation, and you can actually detect these things. Now, same thing. Give rise to wholesome thought that had not arisen. How does it happen? You create the conditions. Your mind is focused. You maintain the balance. You give it all the right conditions for it to continue. And then the so-called the joy, the energy, you begin to have bodily sensations that are feelings that are very pleasant, that we call pleasant yet transcendent feelings. Okay? 禅悦, that kind of sensation. And then you just flow with it. If you flow with it, that will give rise to more wholesome thoughts. And then once it arises, what do you want to do? Sustain it. Yeah. So you're essentially, you know, you'll be developing what? You're managing what? You're managing the 7 lighters of factors of enlightenment. Yeah. Okay, so yes, so it's possible. That'll be a short answer. Yes, it's possible to detect, before it happens. Yes. Yes.
So you're talking specifically about when you're meditating, right? As far as the wholesome and unwholesome thoughts arising. In this example, right?
In this example.
Yeah, but like in my day-to-day practice in the world, not being a regular, as you know, not being a regular meditator yet, but starting soon.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Right, the motivation.
Yeah,
the motivation.
You've heard it there. You've heard it before, but I'm in a different place now for this to take place. So, anyways, I'm hopeful. But I practice this in my day-to-day.
Yes.
Even just being in the world, you know, I recognize when a thought comes up, and I automatically go, well, I don't want to think like that, you know, and I sort of kill that thought immediately and let it go and go, well, why did I think that, you know? I need to make sure I'm not thinking like that in the future, you know, why did I do that? I don't investigate the why too much, I just go, oh, that wasn't a great thought, you know, I need to make sure I don't do this anymore. So that sort of relates when in meditation and when in living in this world too.
Yes. Because Suki's question has more to do with the impede the unwholesome thought from arising. So I needed to use very subtle examples, because usually when you are in movement, it's harder to detect impede.
Right.
Why? Because the circumstances are changing. People come, people go, and then there's stimulus. So we kind of like take what's once they are onto us, the thought's already there. Right? Unless you see, okay, another example in a course level, you know, of mundane life, will be someone, and you know, oh gosh, this person's trouble, right? And they're walking towards you, and you know what kind of reaction they usually cause in you, right? And then you say to yourself, and you start, you start practicing, no enmity, no enmity. And you build up enough wholesome energy that when they come to you and they start talking to you, just
It's all good.
brush off, shake it off, like Taylor Swift says. That's all. Anyways.
That's lost in this audience.
Yeah, but anyways, so now can the experiences in meditation be transferred to everyday life? Certainly.
Sure. That's the goal, isn't
Yes,
it?
that's the goal, because you can actually capture the subtlety of every thought, every action, every word that you say, right? And vice versa. If we prepare your environment and you associate yourself with the right people, and then you keep a healthy distance from the wrong people, then what happens? In meditation, you actually can get into the work much faster. Yeah, that's almost like we call it preparation. Yeah. So an ethical lifestyle is important. An environment that is conducive for you to, practice your precepts. It helps a lot. Right. Okay. Any other question? If no question, then that's it.
We know it all.
No, well, the truth is, I have no expectation that you just capture everything. These things take a while, but you need to kind of start somewhere, and then know the material and start practicing. Yeah, and understand that right view alone is not enough. You need to have right energy and right mindfulness. And right mindfulness should be practiced. Yeah. Be here and now, not out there.